Yep. Okay, we got the live note. And it's not live yet.
No.
Because as soon as I said that, it went live. So everyone on Facebook said, yeah, Alex, it is live.
I can't believe it's Friday already. This week went by fast.
Yeah, it did.
Well, Alex, why don't you introduce who all we have today?
Well, I'm not gonna do a great job of that. I will admit that right now. So what
we
I
have you
do is talk about. Well, I don't want to talk about myself, but can talk about why we're all here, and then maybe go around and let everyone else say a word about his or herself.
Sounds good.
All right. So we are here to talk about digital retailing, or maybe we just call it retailing.
Yeah, let's drop the digital from
it. Please.
It's starting to make me sick.
And Michelle and I have been working together on a white paper.
Michelle, you're with Roadster, right?
Yep, I'm with Roadster.
And so the white paper, we launched it today, and that can be found on DealerRefresh. And as soon as I see the live feed on Facebook, I'll pop it in the comments for everyone to grab it.
We should be live.
Yeah, it's showing, but I'm not finding it on Facebook itself.
Oh. Yeah, they kicked us off.
Ah, well, that would be why.
You never know.
They're lying to us. It says live on Facebook.
You probably said something last week to offend somebody.
We have found that if you talk bad about Facebook while you're on Facebook, something happens to the feed.
Sure seems that way.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so just tell them we're all big shareholders so we can move forward.
There we go. All right. All right, so we all own a ton of shares in Facebook. Mark, make it work. No, we are recording this, so we do have that rolling right now, and we can keep going. But
yeah, you're just missing it. We're good.
All right, looks like something's happening now.
So then we also have we've got Peter Cooper, and Peter, you're president of Lexus of Lehigh?
So on our corporate documents it says that I'm the president of Lexus of Lehigh Valley, but my real title is I'm the chief innovation officer here, and my team has given me the title of Captain Obvious. I have a tendency to just look at things that are just like so obvious that nobody wants to look at. So that's the role I play here.
And brand champion, because that's what's on your chair behind you.
So that's a great honor that I don't like to talk about because I don't want to hold it up. But Lexus in 30 years has had 2 brand champions. I've been one of 2 of them, and quite honored to be that and to represent the franchise in that fashion.
Thanks for joining us today.
It's a thrill to be here.
And then Matthew Haiken.
How are you?
You're president of Prestige Volvo, correct?
The Prestige collection. We have 2 Volvo dealerships, a Lincoln dealership, a Kia dealership, a few new additions coming pretty soon.
Mm.
What got you into the business?
I'm a second generation dealer, and started hanging around dealerships at a young age, around 13, and
you really didn't have much choice.
No, I had plenty of choice. My parents said, you are not coming into this business. We're not doing this. And I just forced my way in, and I can't get away from every facet of the business. I love it. So our store that my dad started in 1979 is Prestige Volvo in East Hanover, New Jersey. We're one of the largest Volvo dealerships in the world, and I took that over 15 years ago. And recently have been growing the group, and involved in many things with the manufacturer, with a lot of the industry, and I just love every inch of the car business, retailing.
Yeah, you were told to stay away from it.
So
I got that same advice.
Yeah, I wonder why that is. I've heard that quite often.
Well, it's a super easy world.
Yeah.
Right? That's why our parents tell us not to get into it.
Mm-hmm.
I also find it's very hard to escape once you're here.
That tends to be the issue as well.
Well, I think the other thing that we can't discount, and I think it's the backbone of this whole conversation, is that this business has been so good to so many families for so long that, number one, we can't escape that, but number two, it adds our responsibility to pay that forward and to make this a better industry and a better consumer-facing experience than they've ever had, so this can continue and be much more sustainable.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Definitely.
Well, Alex, you want to get this started? I guess we were talking about digital retailing, and I said let's just drop the term digital off of it. And it seems like, there's a lot of companies out there that have some type of DR solution. I think, Peter, how many did you say that you counted?
I counted 170. I counted 172 about a year ago. But I think that, I think if you get into reading, and I've had the privilege to read this white paper ahead of time, there's a tremendous history that that's here and is pointed out, and it really explains very well, I think, how we've gotten here. I think that the real issue that we need to focus on is that disruption really has yet to occur from within a major industry. It's always outsiders. So when we look at automobile retailing today, and I think the market cap on people trying to figure out this space is probably somewhere in the $8 billion range currently. And they don't have the issues that the manufacturers have. They don't have to build cars. They don't have supply chains. They don't have to repair cars. So all of the traditional things that we use data and technology for aren't issues for them. So they started their model with, how do we create our technology that's consumer facing? We're taking old technology and saying, okay, how do we bring the consumer into that? And these legacy programs that we have, these DSPMs, are really such a tremendous burden to us. And they have such a strong hold on the industry that our challenges, I think, are even greater. So even if we come up with a great program here, a great program there, I mean, I've spent 3 years working with Roadster. I mean, I think that they're on to something great. But you look at all the obstacles that we're faced with, that if we had the ability to start all over again, none of us would say this old technology is anything I would want anything to do with.
Yeah. So you've implemented digital retailing 3 years ago.
Yes.
And give us a little bit of backstory on that.
So the backstory is, I think that we also live in this is obviously social media, and we live in a world that's full of social media, and everybody talks about influencers, and I listen to conversations, and everybody wants to talk to me. But the reality of it is, I am no longer the consumer. And why do I say I'm no longer the consumer? Is that I used to be, if I wanted to do something or related to business, I went to somebody who was older. I mean, my father passed away when I was very young. So I went to somebody older or somebody I held in regard. We couldn't do things without our parents. Well, today we can't do things without our kids because they're so technologically savvy. So for me, I got on this kick of saying, well, wait a minute, I don't have a model that's sustainable if I'm not going to be in a place that's savvy and watch how a younger person or how other people want to consume. And obviously Amazon, created a point and click world. And I don't think that, that we're there. I mean, I think there's a tremendous amount of retail that's omni-channel, that's got great, online and in store and fit in bricks and mortar. But for me, I realized we had a model that was no longer sustainable if we focused on bricks and mortar and a process that alienated 85% of the consumers.
It's well said. Yeah. Speaking of that, I was having a conversation earlier with a guy named John Berna, who will be on the show on April 19th. And we'll be talking about classified listings and some other neat things that he's been studying of late. But we were talking about digital retailing, and he was making the point that one of the things that really isn't talked about is also trying to overcome the manager's needs in the digital retailing world. So if you were to do it, if you were to do digital retailing right, you would want the manager to really desk every deal. Even if it's coming through the website or whatever it is, the manager would be there to control the numbers on that. You would want that, but it's kind of infeasible. So he was saying like the workload for the manager, becomes quadrupled if you were to take that path, where you might have a guy who's desking 6 deals a day, but you've got leads, like 20 leads a day coming in asking for a payment. And now you're asking this guy to desk 26 deals a day.
So I have to take exception, because I think it's really myopic. And why do I say it's myopic? We're focusing, if we look at who other successful retailers are that have a digital presence and get out of the car business, I think that's the thing I struggle with the most, is everybody thinks there's something unique about the automobile business. It really isn't. So when I look at it and say, okay, we have all of these leads coming in, am I trying to maximize the most money I can make out of this one lead, or am I looking at establishing a relationship? And we've looked at it and we realize we can convert that one person and I get 16 more transactions out of it. That's the information that I care about. I don't care about maximizing the most money out of this deal, this month, this customer here, but I want to make it seamless and remove those obstacles. So when people are thinking automotive, they're immediately going to think, wait a minute, I can't go anywhere else, even if I don't have the best product offering at that time.
Hey, can we just remember what we said when we first jumped on here, and that's we're going to talk about retailing. Forget about digital. It's just retailing. So, I mean, the main thing, going back to your point, Alex, is the manager, if you're creating utopia and you're creating from scratch, customers are desking their own deals. They're calculating their own payments, lease, finance, write a check. We gotta get out of the mindset that you need a manager or some big brother to make the first pass, accept the second pass. I think if you're going to be successful, you need deals. It should all be seamless. And, at the end of the day, we're not like every other business. We are into emotions and relationships. And people buy based on how we make them feel. So again, I'm not saying that buying a car is different than buying a pair of sneakers, but it is. It's emotional and it's based on relationships. So, I mean, this is, forever changing, but basically the principles, the fundamentals are still there. And, I think, retailing is retailing. And I think the biggest challenge is how we work out the deal, how that process works. I think that's where the opportunity is.
I think you said it. I think you said it tremendously. And I think one of the things that we've learned is it is just retailing. At the same time, when I talk to other dealers, I talk in front of dealer groups, the one message that I try to convey is every human being has the same basic fundamental instinct. And that basic fundamental instinct is they want to feel understood. So if we can make our customers, if we can understand our customers and make them feel that we understand them and the pain points that they've gone through and eliminate them, we will establish a relationship, we'll establish a rapport that makes it just so simple for us. So we don't alienate people, but actually we're embracing people because they're feeling understood. And wow, this doesn't have to be hard. This is really simple. This is really easy.
Yeah, and I echo that a lot, actually. And we actually don't use the word digital. I feel like people tend to think that digital means that you're at home in your pajamas versus just using technology to streamline that experience so that you can elevate the relationship, you can actually create, a better experience, give more control, to the customer, and just really enable that just seamless, streamlined experience throughout. And that's why I take offense a little bit to, we're in this category as digital retailing, but we don't actually reference ourselves intentionally. I think people think that might be kind of hokey when we're like, no, we're a commerce solution or we're omni-channel, but that's why, because so much of this is still happening in store. But, how do we actually make that process as easy as what you can start on your own at home?
Well, I think if you go to why do people want to start at home or wherever it is because they're most comfortable there, right? I'm more comfortable there than I would be going into a store, especially historically a place that I've gotten abused. Right. So I don't want to cross that threshold. So whether we like it or we don't like it, my storefront is that screen in front of me.
Yep.
And it's only as a result of our past poor behaviors.
Right. But how do we, contend with the fact that, I did all of this work at home and then I come into the store and, does anybody know that I did all of that? So that seamless experience, I always give the analogy, this Starbucks analogy, because I own Starbucks stock. I drink a lot of coffee, but I use their mobile app all the time to order my coffee and just expect to be able to go in and pick up my coffee and go. But if they told me to get in line when I got there, I'd be pretty upset because that's not the experience that was set up for me when I decided to start that transaction from wherever I was at work or home or what have you. And I think that's a lot of what we're talking about here too.
In my experience, that problem is actually getting worse now as the manufacturers are getting into these concierge programs. Because now you have third-party data telling you something. You have the relationship with the dealer telling you something. Now you have this concierge working for the manufacturer telling you something. There's always a major disconnect. If you go on to like a manufacturer's website and try to calculate payments with their payment calculator and then go visit a dealership's payment calculator and then go visit one of those third parties, it's becoming worse because there's a disconnect between all these parties on how they calculate their payments, on what information they're giving them. So I feel like the problem is actually getting worse.
I totally agree with you, because if you take it even a step further, you try and configure a car online, and the manufacturer don't build half of the ways that
they're global configurators. I'm sorry, those specs are only available in Canada. They're not.
Exactly. So it's not helping the consumer, and I think that I think that you bring up such a great point that it's always been the manufacturer and the dealer, and they manufacture and we retail, but today I found that the vehicle is no longer really what's most relevant. It's that experiential and that ability to consume and enjoy that experience that is the differentiator. And the more that we collaborate with the manufacturers versus, work against them. And I think that a lot of my energy as a dealer today is really incumbent upon me to let my partners understand this is the real world. And most importantly, the easiest way to really communicate that is this how you want your daughter, your niece, your nephew, your cousin? Could they walk into any one of your stores? Could they go on to any one of your websites and do business like they could anywhere else? And there's nobody that answers yes. So that's where we start. We've got to start somewhere. And we've got to start by doing it together, because the other side of it is that these solutions that we need to come up with are economically so big, and there's $8 billion in the industry today trying to compete and to eat our lunch. So if we don't collaborate, there's not a single dealer group that has enough visionary capital to create technology to make a better experience, or enough training for in-store experience and to merge those. So we need to work together with our partners. And they are our greatest asset, not our greatest liability. We just have to see it differently.
I'm optimistic. I think eventually what's going to win is going to be a solution that was created by quote unquote car guys. I like to think that, we'll find a way to execute this, because if this outside capital could do it without the car guy mentality, it would be done already. I mean, I feel like we've been talking about this forever, and there's still, these giants, these automotive vertical legacy giants that just acquire all these companies. They still haven't done it. And you know what? They probably have the solution sitting somewhere on the shelf, but their other companies have such huge market share that they just mothballed those companies. We probably already solved this 8 years ago. But I'm optimistic. I'd like to think that the solution will come. It's definitely a collaboration, but at the end of the day, I think a car guy is going to come up with the solution.
Well, I think one of our advantages, one of our distinct advantages, is people such as yourself that you're second or third generation, and you happen to see the world differently. And right now, we still have a lot of older dealer principals that are saying, "Well, wait a minute. I know I need all of these things. I know I need them in my store, but the runway's getting short. I don't have a lot of time left. Or how would I do a pivot to even begin to interview to hire a person with this acumen? Traditionally, our managers came up as salespeople. So as I say it is so you took your best persuaders and you elevated them into managers. They became your best liars because the people running your store. They're not the people taking care of worried about the consumer experience. And so there's a conflict within our structure.
Yeah. I mean, I agree on the collaboration here. We've learned so much from you and other people, and that's really what it takes. It's about listening and collaborating on those that have the technology with those that understand the business.
I'm a factory guy. I love my manufacturers. I work well with them. But I mean, they don't make it any easier because they just find the shiniest new toy out there and they say, okay, we're going to copy and paste this for the entire network and our problems are solved. And they move so slow. And then again, it goes back to the 80-20. You got 20% doing all the volume, making money, taking care of the customers. And they're like, man, maybe we could just take this shiny new toy and that 80% will go and then half the market will improve. So, I mean, I don't think they make it any easier. And I mean that in the most pleasant way possible.
Well, I think you nailed it there. I think that it's the 80-20. But I think that the thing is that, we also have to speak very loudly that time's our enemy here. And we were involved in a situation a couple of years ago where, our manufacturer had one website provider that absolutely, it worked for them, but it didn't work for our customers. And all these manufacturers have these marketing covenants and these restrictions as to how you can and can't do things. And we finally just sat down one day and said, well, wait a minute, who are we working for here? And so I called one of the VPs and I said, look, I'm sorry. You got covenant money. You're going to have to keep my covenant money because I'm going to have to do the right thing by my customer. And I don't mean it to alienate you. And, the answer came back, well, we're looking at solutions and we have some solutions. And I said, the reality of it is, and I say this respectfully, at that time I said, Toyota rebuilt the north of Japan after the tsunami in 6 months. We elect the president of the United States in under 120 days. And to think that you can't come up with solutions quicker, that's something that's no longer going to be tolerable in the world that we live in for us all to be successful.
You guys are nailing some big points here. So the OEMs, should we keep running down that track for a minute?
You go wherever you want.
It's low-hanging fruit.
It is low-hanging fruit. But I think what you guys are saying is that the vendors aren't really the big issue that they seem to be made out to be time and time again. And we should really be maybe talking to the OEMs about how can you get out of our way.
Well, I think it's just the opposite, actually. We need the OEMs. We need the OEMs to help us put the pressure on some of these bigger vendors that have a stranglehold on the industry. They've got the weight to do it. I mean, we said this before we went online. I mean, I looked at at who does our DSPM, and it's horrible. It's antiquated technology for our needs today. And I said, okay, we got to create our own. We got to get out of it. And I'm looking well into the 7 figures to get rid of this. And there's not a solution that's out there that's really, that will fit ours. So we've got to write that technology or create some of the technology. So it becomes, very, very cumbersome. And that's where the difficulty is with some of these outside people who we think could crack the code. But the reality is, they've got VC money for free. They got tremendous visionary capital, and they can afford to make mistakes. I can't afford to make those mistakes and those investments as, just a little car deal, So that's my perspective on it.
All right. So everyone needs to come together and form the trifecta to solve these issues.
I believe so.
Okay. Yep. Now, how do we do that?
Well, I think this is a perfect example, by the way. This is exactly what needs to be done, are these dialogues. So the more people are aware of them, more people have an understanding of them. And the reality is, I believe that the manufacturer has to put more mandates on different types of performance from their dealers. I mean, I use this as an example, and I think that it's a very true one. Everybody's out there today still surveying customers. And I want to puke, when I think about this whole notion of survey. Who fills out surveys? But I'm older than all of you. And I remember when, where this whole idea of surveys came from. And it came from customer satisfaction on the service side, because we absolutely abused the customers. I mean, we abused them. So it's evolved, and it's become an integral part of every manufacturer, everything that they do. But the one thing that they all refuse to do, they'll ask you, what do you think of the wheels? What do you think of the interface? Some relevant questions. How quick did somebody get back to you? Good information. But the real question that none of them have had the courage to ask is, how would you like to transact your next transaction? Nobody will ask the most common sense question, so we can start to see, because they won't ask it because they're going to have to respond to it.
Have you asked that question?
Come on. You're time. Every chance I get. Every chance I get.
What do you hear?
It's like, we're working on our surveys. But the reality is, we have this model that's Lexus Plus. And they took the Lexus Plus model and they integrated it into the existing survey, that because we haven't done as good a job as we could do in marketing and having people understand what the Lexus Plus model is, we get no good data back from the surveys. And so if you're going to survey, which is a whole nother subject, but you said it beautifully, and I think it's antithetical to most people in this business, is you got to listen. And people don't know how to listen. And it's so simple. If you listen, then you can serve it up and do it. It's not complicated.
Yeah, totally.
For sure. And we're listening. So, yeah, we're certainly moving away from the subject, but these are very powerful things that need to be said.
So bring us back. Bring us reel us in here.
I don't know that we need to. I mean, it is retail, and all these things do fall in the retail department.
And not every, the beauty of our business, not every transaction is the same. Everyone is totally different. So, that's what we do. We adapt. But all of this is, it's retailing, we are already there. If every customer that comes in the door is some sort of internet customer. Some people want to be anonymous and sit at home in their pajamas and buy a car and have it delivered. Some people just want to do research and set up a VIP appointment. Some people want to send a lead. I mean, that's all internet. It's all digital. It's just what we do. So I guess, putting it together and talking about digital retailing, it's, I guess, what kind of tools do we need in our toolbox to get better at this, to keep the third parties out, to protect our margins, to protect our domains? I guess that's what we're doing, is we're just collecting tools that we could put into our backpack to help us be better dealers. And that's one thing I love about car dealers. We're always improving. We're always looking at a metric. There's always some more juice to squeeze. And maybe that's what we're doing. We're just putting put together more tools in our backpack, so we become better dealers.
So I think, Matt, you touched on that. I have a son who's just now third generation going into this business, and he said, all I want to do is go out and sell car dealer stuff. They'll buy anything, So, and the reality of it is we have and we will, and in order, because we're all getting compressed, we've got all these margins that are shrinking. We're getting pulled in 100 different directions. We've got to look at it, I think, a little bit differently, and I don't think we're looking at it on a big enough scale. And we need to figure out how that big scale is, because whether some of these disruptors make it or don't make it is absolutely irrelevant. But what they've done is they've set an expectation for the consumer is this sounds like a much better and healthier way for me to do it. So Matt, why can't you do that for me? And that's our new competition. And so if they would have cracked it, fine, but they've set up a model. Every conversation I get in with, you talk about Tesla, and people say they're going to make it, they're not going to make it. I could really care less about that. What I care about is what I can learn from what they've done and how the consumers respond.
100%. Whether they make it or they don't make it, they have certainly forced us to elevate our game, elevate our customer experience, and force certain expectations that we have to adhere by.
And I'm grateful for that, by the way. I'm grateful. Absolutely. Because I want to compete against someone that's going to make me better, not going to make me worse. So
absolutely.
Matthew, what are some of the stumbling blocks that you've run across implementing digital retailing at the dealership?
Well, when you use the word digital retailing, I would say, what are the stumbling blocks we've had implementing some new technologies and tools? Mm-hmm. Any dealer, it comes down to people, and it needs to be a top-down approach. You need to have ownership of this new tool or this new process, and you have to live it and breathe it. I mean, it's really, really difficult to affect change with old school sales managers, desk managers. I mean, they've been penciling their deals with their favorite Sharpie back in the 70s. I mean, it's hard to implement that. But there's so much value in those people. I'm not saying let's get rid of them and let's get a bunch of hourly, people that have never been in the business. They have a ton of value. But I think that's really one of the challenges, is really just getting it through your people. It needs to be bought in from the top level, and they need to see you, embracing these tools. And that's really been, in my experience, our biggest challenge.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think, it's a top-down mentality. But I think once you understand that at the top you've made that decision, and we have these legacy hires, and we have these people that really helped us get here. I mean, I have employees that helped me build my business for 30 years, but can't orient into the new world order, for lack of a better term. The emotional conflict that causes, and the emotional energy that we spend to do that is, we really had to make a determination as to how do we create a tremendous human capital strategy moving forward as part of our business model that we were going to create. And, we've all made those hires that we can't fire. And the reality of it is, the time's come that it's very painful, but we've got to face some of those tough decisions and say, you know what, this just isn't going to work. To pivot a business is a very, very difficult thing, as opposed to saying, okay, you know what, I'm cleaning the slate, I'm going to start all over. And by the way, I may rehire a bunch of those people, but the reality is we can't put ourselves in the position of saying, okay, because they've been here, we need to keep suffering. And more importantly, our customers need to suffer.
Yeah. We actually been looking at this for a while, because everybody always asks what makes a successful, dealership on the platform. And we always say it's a champion, right? There's somebody in the store that really is owning this. We actually just did an analysis that put some numbers to it. And we looked at the stores where there was somebody that was, really driving it in the store versus stores that weren't. And it was like a 4X difference in performance. The other interesting thing was it wasn't just you guys, it was actually the next layer down. It was the sales managers that really needed to also champion. So looking at the entire, the people, the pricing, how you're going to market, it's like you said, it's an investment in looking at your business. It's not just plugging in a new technology.
Yeah, it's just a tool that's a part of you.
Yeah,
that's how you need to look at it.
I think the reality of it is it's and Matt hasn't said it in these exact words, but we're not in the car business anymore as we were born into this and raised in this. We are not in that business. We happen to be transacting cars, but that's the only thing that to me that resembles what was, the generation before me, and even 10 years before me. That's the only thing that's similar is that there's a car involved or there's parts and service involved. But other than that, there's nothing about it that's, in my mind, the car business. I think we use this term, the car business, and not any offense, to Matt, and I don't think you'll take it. I don't want to look at myself anymore as I'm in the car business. I don't want to look at myself as I'm in a dealership. Is that what I really do? I deal all day? I don't think so. I mean, it's like antithetical to what we do today.
What would you say we do today then? If you were to try and put it in like one phrase or word.
So for me, I want to create an experience. And I want to help you consume. That's what it is. This is experiential. And today, if you look at what is all of this when you go back to the term that we've debated whether we should use or we shouldn't use of digital retailing, it's still people are having an experience. So Amazon created an experience that was point and click. Elon Musk has created experiential. And they have whatever they're transacting is secondary to our creating a positive experience. And, one of the things that I love to talk about is, for 25 years, I know we got this right in our model is that consumers' single biggest asset that they had was their time. I no longer believe that that's the truth. So what is their single biggest asset?
Well,
okay, it's the emotional energy that it takes to spend that time. If I can make something easy, simple, fun, I'm going to keep our people keep coming back. We pick up the phone. I want to call. I'm going to call the bank. I've got to go through a call tree and push 8 buttons just to make a simple transaction. I want to get a dinner reservation. Everywhere we go in our lives, there's these obstacles and these hurdles to doing business. If we remove them and we make it simple and it takes no effort, we win. And the profit's going to follow. And that's why I look at a product like Roadster. Okay, somebody can know exactly what the car is going to cost them. I mean, imagine if you went into a restaurant and there were no prices on the menu. And people are saying, okay, well, I don't know what to order because I don't know what's going to cost me. Well, that's what goes on in a car dealership today because we've done all this great job training our salespeople. We call them experience managers, experience guides. They want to come in and they look at a car and you're trying to tell them how wonderful all the technology is and everything in it. And all they're thinking in the back of my mind, how much is this going to cost me? How much is it going to cost me? I mean, there's not a woman who will go into a dress store and say, okay, let me try on everything, but I don't want to know what it costs. So, I mean, the simple, basic, fundamental things that we would want as a consumer anywhere, car business said, no, we're not going to do that for you. We're going to make you wait to find out. Really?
It's like attorneys. You have no idea how much it costs when you're talking to them, and then you get that bill a year later whenever they do their billing cycle.
Yeah.
Well, but again,
yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, Peter, you were talking earlier about how, Tesla, and I would even put like Carvana in that mix of like companies where people are now seeing what's possible. But I would say that, it's every experience you have every day. You were talking about experiences. It's not even car business experience, right? It's everywhere.
But if you think about everywhere you go, there's no easy experiences. So we don't have to be that great. We just got to make, be that much better. I mean, all we have to be is the tallest midget in the room and we're going to win here. That's not what I'm looking at.
That's an analogy. But you burned that analogy in my brain now. And I'm only 5 feet tall.
But I'm not looking to be that guy. But for me to have a business that's sustainable, that's going to make it to the 4th and 5th generation, and by the way, we're talking about, there's this technology undercurrent in all of this. But the reality is nobody's talking about how rapidly the technology has evolved in the last several years. Well, that speed is only going to increase. It's not going to decrease.
Actually, that reminds me, Alex, of our part of the white paper with the sort of how everything has evolved, and the time seems to be just rejiggering itself from history.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The cycle we're in right now is hopefully one where we're getting back to a period of innovation after a period of a lot of things being
integration. We're going from integration back to innovation, because that's all they're working on is integrating.
We hope.
Yes.
But the reality is we need both, and certainly the innovation is going to occur, and we have absolutely no control over that other than to embrace that. And I think that embracing that and getting it to integrate into the consumer experience is critical. And I think guys, I'm sorry to say, industry people, men, women, everybody's been afraid, to give this information or to the consumer. Let them have it. If I can make it easier for somebody, I will win every time.
Well, so yes, you guys are. So what we have here today is we've got, aside from your Kia store, Matt, everyone here is mostly dealing in luxury cars. So there are some other brands that are, some of the manufacturers are actually instituting a wall between letting the customer just find out what the actual price is. And then you also have some dealers out there who put a wall up on letting the customers even see the details page of a car on their website. So there are examples of,
I think they
opposite, and they say this works for them.
It works. They're successful with it.
Yeah.
I think they should keep doing it because they're going to be the blockbusters. They're the guys that aren't going to make it. So they're going to make a lot of money today. They're not going to be around in 3 years. So let them keep doing it, because there's going to be guys like Matt who are going to say, okay, the deal is now a hell of a lot cheaper than it ever was for me to go acquire. I'm going to go acquire because I got a great model that works. And I think people get into, and I'm glad you brought up the point of that we're luxury dealers. The reality of it is, if you went to, and you'll all go out to dinner over the weekend, ask people today how they define luxury, and nobody can come up with a really good, clear, clean definition. So luxury has changed, and it's no longer necessarily a price point. And one of the things is, I go to a dealer meeting, I sit around the table, and if everybody doesn't have the iPhone XS, they have the iPhone 10. So they have the latest technology. But the reality of it is, there's some other smartphones that are out there. The average iPhone sells at close to $800. There's other smartphones that are out there that do the same exact thing that sell for $300. So how is it that they're getting $400 more for the phone that'll do the same exact thing? Is it because of the phone is that good, or is that now the new definition of what luxury looks like in the consumer interface?
So just the brand itself.
It's all about the brand, and I think that's one of the areas, again, that dealers haven't given a lot of thought to. We've been associated with, our brand is who our individual dealer brand is, versus how do we create a brand of our own, independent and separate than the manufacturer. And we've been.
Well, they don't make it very easy to do that.
I think just the opposite. I think it becomes easier to do if you look at it. It's not that complicated. But I think that the reality of it is we've spent $1 gazillion advertising. And, today advertising is, we suffer from ad fatigue, and it's a tax on the poor. I see no ads in my life. Okay. And if I want to consume something, I'm going to go look for it. So the manufacturer's still over there saying, let's advertise, and dealers are out there, let me put it out there for $1 less a month. I don't want to play that game. I can't win in that space. But our brands, I'm looking at your wall and I see, there's the star on the wall. Okay, so that star stands for something. So any new product or anything they come out is going to get my attention. So we've got to work harder than we've ever worked on building a great brand identity. And I know Matt, with Volvo, they've come so far, through their product and what they've done. And, I'm on the outside looking in and I can say, wow, that's pretty amazing. And it is. And you can see all the warts that are there. But, brand is everything right now.
That's true. But is brand loyalty in the car business still a big thing?
So I would answer to you, brand loyalty is uniquely different than dealer loyalty. And if I give people such an unbelievable experience, I may not have the best product offering, but they're not going to be able to leave me and go consume another car and go through the miserable emotional experience that they have to consume that car or that's parts and service. That's why I look at the 16 transactions versus the 1 transaction. I want all of those.
Right. Let's see. We had a bunch of notes here for these moments of silence, but none of them really apply anymore.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay, Peter. This is good stuff.
Yeah.
And we also have a lot of comments coming in on the Facebook feed. Some rebutting some things that are being said, some adding to. Whoever Veronica Smith is, she's pretty funny. But
listen, I would hope that afterwards, and I do this, and and I don't know how Matt feels. I give people my cell phone number. They want to learn from me. I'll take anybody's calls because I want.
Peter, I want your cell phone number. I think you're the coolest guy.
So Matt, you're gonna think this is crazy. So in 1987, we gotta go off script a little bit here. 1987, I sold my first stores. And there was a guy at Volvo that was the group vice president. The guy's name was Bill Hoover. Hoover comes to me and says, I want you to be one of my dealers. I said, great. He says, we're going to open point. It's on Route 10 in Denville, New Jersey. So literally right down the street from you.
Yep.
And I had actually given a lot of consideration to going to it. I'm glad I didn't go to it. I'm glad I ended up where I did. But I think you guys, you run a hell of an operation. Your family has for years. And today you've got, listen, if you've survived this long, you're gonna survive a long time because you got some great product behind you today. You got a great mindset. You got a great outlook. You're going to be tremendously successful.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad I'm not competing with you in Denville. That'd be fun. Another wall, though, for lack of innovation is the manufacturers. They need to fix some of these networks because you can't innovate when you've got a dealer 6 miles away to your right and a dealer 6 miles to your left, because all you're focused on is making sure that the consumer goes nowhere else but your store, and all that brain drain and energy into saying, I got to spot this guy. If I don't spot him, I'm dead. I mean, could you imagine if we didn't waste all that time and energy into thinking about that? We could actually take all that energy into delivering amazing customer experience. So the networks, the networks, it's such a priority of some of these legacy brands.
Let me challenge you on that, because I happen to think that you're right, and I think that the manufacturer, a lot of these buy sells, is going to exercise their right of first refusal, maybe not open some of these points. But one of my dear friends is Danny Meyer, who has Union Square Hospitality Group in New York. And he said to me, there's about 14,000 restaurants in New York City. So his closest competition literally can be right out his front door. And and all that he wants to do is, I want to know what my competition's doing, but I want to make sure that when somebody's interacting in one of our restaurants, they have the absolute best experience that there is. And that's all that we can control today. And when you talk about going down the street, that's 6 miles. In your market, I know what 6 miles is. It's not 6 minutes. It's a good half hour. And then they go into the store and they get put through the ringer for another 2 hours. So if people want to spend that emotional energy to save $200-300, My perspective is you should go at it, because that's not who we're going to be. You should go at it. You'll get the car for $200-300 cheaper. I promise you. But if you want to do it. And you find more times than not, if you're upfront and you're transparent, people get that. By the way, they've come into your store. They know pretty much what the car is going to cost them. So it makes it easier for us to do what we're doing, not that much more difficult.
It becomes your brand, right? That experience is your brand, the culture you set and the experience you give.
I look at our difference, and one of the things, Matt, I see, you're the banker, you're that quintessential guy, and people walk in and they look at me and say, well, wait a minute, you own this place? Because I got dressed up. I got dressed up to do this for you guys today. But the reality,
thank you.
But we laugh about it. But Captain Obvious over here says, well, wait a minute. If I look at the people who are walking through my door, what do they look like? Who are they? And I want to make people feel as most comfortable as I can humanly do that. And I can't do that if I'm not feeling comfortable. And so all of these just little things we've just analyzed and overanalyzed and overanalyzed.
True
and
that.
I think it's very important that we focus on that.
True that. How have you been able to mirror the experience that your customer has online to when they show up at the dealership on the showroom floor?
I think it's a great question. I'm not happy. First of all, I'm not happy with where we are at all with that. And again, the constraints from the manufacturers. We left who the manufacturer's one provider was, and last year they said, okay, we're going to give you 2 providers. We're now going to go to 6 providers. But I'm looking to develop that site that is a non-automotive site, and really make it pretty simple, I think. But the difficulty in it, Jeff, is that the integration isn't there. So my CRM is not talking to the website provider, who's not integrated with a Roadster, and I can't desk a deal and print a deal, and then I got Route 1 over here, so I got to get all the credit approvals over here. There's no integration. So that is, I would say, if you said to me, Peter, what's your top 3 struggles? That vertical integration is really critical, and that's our challenge. So I'm not pleased at all. So we're going to keep looking for solutions, keep trying to do better.
Do you think currently it can be doing more harm than good? If someone gets on your website, they're going through the retail piece, they're having a great time. Overall, it's a great experience. They come into the dealership, and
I think it has the potential. If not managed properly. I think, we've created, a pretty outstanding internal experience so that, that we get over that. But, but I think that the reality of it is, I'm going to go into a little bit uncharted territory here. My big issue is that today, Carvana's built recently, and they're blowing up, and all their advertising is processed. And to me, it's absolutely absurd, that I got to spend the money for you to deliver me the car. Why am I not delivering the car, going to you, showing you the car? And if I got to go back to you 2 times because I don't have the right car, but I finally bring you the right car, I'm not in a position to transact right there. The technology doesn't exist that I can do it all on an iPad. That you found it online. Okay, this is the car. Bring it to me. I want to see it. I want to play with it. Maybe even have it for an extended test drive. So the technologies that some of our disruptors have created are our biggest challenge to compete with, and that's where I would like to go if we can move this thing forward.
Yeah, that's a fair point, Peter, on the integration piece. We all need to play together and integrate with one another.
Listen, if we can't learn to live to play together, we're not gonna, we're never gonna get along. So we got to play together, and everybody wants to have their biggest share. I want to see Volvo knock the cover off the ball. I want to see Lincoln knock the cover off the ball, because the reality of it is, if one of us fail, we all fail. And this has just been such a fabulous industry for all of us.
Matthew, how about you? Have you been able to?
In a short period of time, we've seen pretty decent engagement with some of these tools. Longer time on our site. I don't think I have enough data yet or science behind this, but we feel that we could capture higher transaction prices and less discounting on certain vehicles. by using this technology. You know, a lot of times it's that third-party validation that says, hey, yeah, okay, this is a fair deal. I'm calculating my own lease. I'm switching lease payments. I guess leasing is better than financing, and they're not pushing me in towards a lease because it's increasing their margins. You know, but it's funny. Like, I'm thinking about this from a desktop perspective when like everything needs to be focused on like, how are they doing this from they doing this from an iPad, and you know, how are they doing this while they're taking that journey with people in your stores? But I think there's tremendous benefits to using these tools.
So I think you know, when you go back to, you know, something that they're interrelated is obviously we want to have the right tools in the toolbox, not just a big toolbox. I just want to have the right tools to get the job done. But you know, I'm not sure, Matt, if over in your market you guys have Wawa.
It's South Jersey, not my market, but I know it's sort of a 7-Eleven competitor.
Yeah. So we look at, if we look at that, I mean, they've popped up everywhere, and they got in the gas business, and they extended, you know, what their offerings were. But the reality of it is, you know, 30 years I've asked people, how much is a quart of milk at Wawa? And nobody knows. Nobody knows. And
doesn't
why don't
matter.
they know? Doesn't matter. And we're still looking at it like it matters. It doesn't matter.
Yep. So it seems like, you know, we all are still suffering from, and I held a book up earlier. I'm not sure the Facebook feed saw it because it shows one of us at a time. But we're still suffering from an age-old problem that Seth Godin wrote about. God, how long ago was this, Jeff? I think
plus 12.
Yeah. All right. 13. Yeah, at least. That's over a decade old. But basically what he was saying is that we've made this beautiful internet. And we make these beautiful websites. And we create this wonderful experience. And then when somebody comes into the brick and mortar facility, we ignore it. Or we, you know, we don't provide the same kind of presentation that we presented. The expectations are not carried through. And it seems like that's still alive and well.
So I love, first of all, the fact that you brought up Seth Godin. And I wanted you to say, I mean, I've never met Matt before. We're certainly going to meet after this and, you know, and get together. But, you know, when I talk to dealer groups, one of the things that I focus on is the learnings. And, you know, Seth Godin just wrote another book. If I can't see you, how am I going to market to you? And I talk to dealer groups, and I say, okay, so what was the last podcast you listened to today? What was the last book you read this week? And you've got to create an organization that's a learning organization. And if we're not constantly learning, we're just going to lose. But I will promise you that if I build an organization that's constantly learning, I will crush anybody that's not of the same mindset. So we may not crush you today. It may take a year, may take 3 years, but this is all about learnings and staying on top of the game. I mean, I remember the first time I sat down with Rudy from Roadster. It has to be like 5 years ago, you know. And what I've learned in that time, I learned more in that last 5 years than I learned in my previous, 50 years. So we've got to be focused on, that's an integral part. That's part of my day every day today. It's not looking just at how many ups we had, what's my gross. I mean, those things really are not of what's critically important to me. It's how do I learn to keep this thing sustaining and growing?
Yeah. And how do you make that connection to from what the experience was on your website, which is beautiful, by the way. I know that was a goal of yours to make it not like an automotive site. But then also when they come in store, I think, I know that you guys have the iPads and things like that are signaling something is different here. And I think that's a big piece of that portrayal of a very different experience.
Well, I think also, Michelle, that I touched on it and we sort of pushed it down, is that human capital strategy. Yep. Who first of all, we're I say this, and I don't say it in a malicious way. I talk to my fellow dealers and say, look, you can't ask your kids this, but you're going to go out to dinner tomorrow night with your closest friends. how many of you can, with a clean conscience, say, look, I've got a great career for your child to come work for me and sell cars for the rest of their lives? How many of them would do that? And if we can't look at ourselves honestly and say, yeah, we got a great career, we don't have a business. Full stop. We got nothing.
Yeah, it's funny. We were talking about how all of our parents here didn't want any of us to get in the business originally.
Well, a lot of people in the Facebook comments, and you just touched on it, Michelle, utilizing the iPads on the showroom floor. Is that something that you've been able to do, Peter and Matthew?
Yeah, I mean, we together with Alex a few years ago, I think we coined the phrase, let's present it on glass.
I like that.
It becomes more believable that way.
Exactly. And that was us, presenting a multi-scenario worksheet on an iPad. And at the time, it was really just a PDF where you could zoom in and see several scenarios. And now I guess the vision is not to just have a static PDF, but actually something that moves when you change the mileage and you change the term. But I mean, if you come into any of our stores and as soon as I acquire a store, open up a new store, the first investment I make, and this goes back to what is luxury today, I go crazy at Apple Store. And it's about the experience and it's about the expectation. And when someone comes into one of our stores and they see just a sea of 27-inch iMacs, it's something that they don't see in every dealership. It sets up that expectation that this is not going to be like down the road motors. This is going to be something different. So everybody has tablets. We have kiosks with 27 iMacs. Everyone's desk has a 27-inch iMac. Our finance managers use Apple products. It's really something that's part of our culture.
It's an elevated experience, right?
That's it. And you know what? It might not be reality. It might be fake. But when they see an old timer using a trackpad and using 3 fingers to swipe left and right, they're not thinking about, honey, this guy's going to take advantage of us. They're saying, wow, what? I've never seen a mouse like that. That is really cool. So yeah,
so I think one of the things that that also that we could go on all day here. But I think one of the things that we really haven't talked about that really is a big differentiator here is in my life today. I don't want to be sold anything. I really don't want to be sold anything. And I think some of these solutions that we've created allows us to actually buy and lean in versus somebody's trying to sell me something. I think anytime I go somewhere and somebody's doing that, it's like immediately it's a turnoff. And we have so much information being thrown at us from every different direction in our lives to silence that noise and help people to consume. Really has to be an objective of ours. And a lot of these tools can, these more consumer-facing tools that we have, I mean, the mortgage industry's done it for years. Why would we not do that? But dealers are afraid to say, I can't put my price on the line. And this is, Alex, Matt, you touched on this before, is our industry operates today in 4 unique silos. Those silos, there's a silo for the manufacturer, and we do everything because the manufacturer wants us to do it. Then there's another silo over here that you alluded to, Matt, that's other dealer silo. I don't want to do it because another dealer is doing it, or I can't do it because this is what my competition will do to me. And then there's the most dangerous silo that's out there. That's the dealer silo. I'm doing all of this first and foremost because it's good for me. And the one that gets the least amount of attention that belongs being the most important is that customer silo. And I believe it doesn't belong being 4 silos. It belongs being 1 silo with the customer at the top.
That's a great way to end. And that is the point of all points. Peter.
Yeah.
Nice job there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me and tolerating me today.
It's been a pleasure. Same with you, Matt. Matt and I go way back. You're always.
I was a little rusty. I've never had one of these calls before, and so next time I'll be a little stronger. But thank you. Thank you.
You were great. You were great.
Yeah,
No worries.
And Michelle, big time. Thank you. I had such a pleasurable time writing the white paper with you. You're so easy to work with.
Where can people get where can they download the white paper? We're going to have it up over on the blog, probably the blog and the forums.
Yeah, so right now it's circling through the advertisements on DealerRefresh. So you can just start refreshing, get those impressions way up on the ads. As Steve Starting likes to say, it is Ad Click Friday. Click a click day. And then, of course, it's over here in the Facebook comments pinned to the top.
Alex, I'd love if you put my contact information up there so if anyone wants to reach out to me, they can.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Peter, do you want to you want me to put your phone number up there? Or?
You can. I'm all in. I'm all in.
All right.
Thanks everyone for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely. And Alex, just to echo the same, I had a great time working on that white paper with you. And anytime you want to collaborate, and Peter, anytime you want to chat, I love it.
Listen. I mean, one of the fortunate things I have is I get to collaborate with you, you guys, and I feel blessed, to have you guys as partners.
We feel the same.
Yeah, so it's all good, and I think Matt, this thing can only get greater, but we've got to be the innovators, and we've got to be the role models, and that's not always an easy thing to do.
No. All right. Well, everyone have a great weekend, and we will be back here next Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.